Hey, Peter, welcome.
Hi there.
Hey, so Peter, you are the developer of many of the most popular Joomla extensions, maybe most of the top 100 Joomla extensions. You have popular extensions coming out of your ears, I think.
Yeah, I've got 10 in the top 100 at the moment, I think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, yeah, people pretty much enjoy what I created. So
You
that's
have
good.
what, 30 extensions in total now?
Correct. Yeah.
How did you get started with this? I mean, it must have taken like a decade or so to get up to 30 extensions. How did you get the ball
Yeah.
rolling? What was your first one?
Yeah, pretty much a decade. So it started just before Joomla, so in the Mambo days. I started creating a website, and I soon ran into stuff I wanted to do, which I couldn't. So I hacked away at the code, and then the first update came, and then all my code was gone. So that got me into the whole plugins thing, where I created a few plugins to do stuff that I wanted. Yeah, they were all called differently then, and it was all just for myself to start off with. So I think I started with Sorcerer, which was called Any Tags back then, I think, and a few others. And when I had, I think, 4 or 5, I created a website to just share them because I just wanted to give them away. There was no Jet back then. Um, so I wanted to get a name. I didn't want to attach my own name to the extensions. I didn't really think that was necessary. So noname.nl and .com was already taken, so I took no number. So that's how my name, no number started back then.
Oh, so originally it was going to be no name
Yeah,
extensions and
just
yeah.
something anonymous like. And then, well, that stuck. And then a few years later, I had a couple of more extensions. And then I think in 2008, I started my company. Yeah, so then I started doing more website work. And company started. And a couple of years later, I think about 8 years ago, I had to make the choice whether to slow down on the extension development or go full time. So I chose the latter and went full
Was there
time.
was there a moment when you looked at sales or you looked at a new product and thought, okay, I can pay my mortgage with this, I can pay my bills?
Well, I had this kind of support subscription model back then, so I wasn't really selling my extensions, but I got quite a bit of support. Well, I thought was pretty nice back then, no way enough to live from. So when I made the jump, I had nowhere near enough to live from. So I did extra website work in the start for the first couple of years. And then my extensions kind of took off. The sales went pretty well. So then I could drop all my web development work, which I was very happy with because I didn't really enjoy that. So yeah, so now for about 8 or 9 years, I've been doing the extensions full time and getting my complete income from that.
Is there one of the extensions that is really successful for you, one or two or perhaps three of them that really drive the revenue? I know here at Joomla Shack, we have 30 extensions like you. OS Map is probably 25% of our revenue.
Well, most of my revenue is through the bundle extension or the bundle subscription. And the most popular ones by sales, I think, are modals and advanced module manager.
Oh, okay. So you try and encourage people to get a bundle to become a regular labs member in general
Yeah,
to support you for.
so then they get everything. Yeah.
It amazes me that for so many years you managed to do this by yourself. You were doing the code for 20 plus extensions, you were doing the documentation, you were doing the support, you were doing the little Peter animations. on the website you were managing all of this just by yourself.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, no social life. So.
You were just working like 20 hours a day.
Yeah, well, in the start, I made crazy hours, especially before I went full time. I had 3 jobs, and this was on the side. For the last like 4 or 5 years, it's been pretty relaxed, so I don't make crazy hours. I haven't created a lot of new extensions in the last couple of years. The 30 extensions I have now are pretty much enough for now. So it's more the side stuff. So the development on them, the bug fixing. Andy is helping me with the documentation stuff. Years ago, I've been busy with creating video tutorials. Yeah, so stuff like that.
Okay, so the extensions are, well, you have 30. That's probably enough,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I guess particularly with Joomla 4 coming up, I know here at Joomla Shack, we're probably reluctant to release too much new stuff.
Exactly.
Because
Yep.
fairly soon it would all have to be updated for Joomla 4 anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty much there as well. So I don't have really interesting stuff lying around to release. With Joomla 4 comes new problems, I take it.
I'm sure.
And I think that's where my most of my extensions try to solve an issue in Joomla itself. So with a new Joomla version, I think there will be room for new extensions that solve new problems. So yeah, we'll just have to see what comes up then. And next to that, I will have to port my extensions to Joomla 4 as well, the ones that make sense at least.
We got someone from the audience asking a question.
Question. This is Morris Enyeart. With Joomla 4, a question I was going to ask, and this is opportune, is one of the big changes, for us, is that tables will be eliminated and CSS grids will replace it. Have you considered doing an extension for CSS grids, even now, that could then bridge into Joomla 4?
Nope.
Something that would be useful.
I guess that sort of filling obvious gaps in Joomla's functionality.
Yeah, mainly. I do have some front-end extensions like modals and tabs and sliders and tooltips. I do not enjoy the support on those because you're very... most of the support comes from conflicts with other template frameworks. So I'm very reluctant to do more of that kind of stuff. And with regards to Joomla 4, I pretty much haven't really looked at it yet. I've done a test install and clicked around, but I'm not coding anything for Joomla 4 yet. I'm waiting till the beta is out, and that will be the start sign for me
All right, thanks.
to get into development.
Yeah, same here with previous versions, not just in Joomla, but also Drupal. We've made the mistake of moving too early and developing our code on an alpha or beta version, and then just having to redo it all.
Been there.
Yeah, so I don't think it's unusual to wait until at least the release candidate phase.
Well, my idea was to start looking into stuff when beta is released, but maybe that's too early as well.
Cool. I'm seeing a bunch of questions coming in. I see questions from Owen and from Joe. I'm unmuting everyone, guys. If you do want to ask a question directly to Peter, feel free to chip in and just ask him.
There's one question here I'm reading. I have always wondered how he makes money by offering a lifetime bundle. Well, that's why I'm not offering a lifetime bundle anymore.
We're dealing with some legacy of that at Joomla Shack. They used to give away a lot of lifetime licenses, and definitely problematic.
Yeah. It was nice. Like it was like 500 euros or something. So it's nice when you have a sale because it really bumps your income for that month. But yeah, then that's it. You have no more income from that side. So yeah, I stopped offering those, I think 3 years ago. But I still have quite a number of users that have a lifetime bundle. And,
well, the advantage of a lifetime bundle is it gets you your name out there. In your case, you don't need your name out there because you make awesome stuff and everybody knows it. But, you know, when you're starting out, you know, if you limit it, it's kind of like the horrible Groupon thing. You know, if you limit it, then it's great.
If you plan it from the start, then you can go about it in a different way. My lifetime bundle was pretty much you get everything, and also my current bundle subscription. If I create a new extension, it will be included automatically. So I have no things in place that you will need to buy the new extension separately, and I don't want that either. So yeah, I don't have another way to get revenue from people that already have a lifetime. Well, that's pretty much what a lifetime also means in my view. So
one way we think about it is that lifetime is an unclear promise that we're making to the user, that normally we sell everything on a 1-year basis. And so if someone buys a 1-year subscription, they're getting a very clear promise of what we are going to deliver them. We're going to give you this extension and support for this period of time. Whereas a lifetime, particularly when it comes to a bundle, gets very nebulous. We're going to give you this kind of group of extensions that may grow or shrink, and it may be for some very clearly undefined period of time.
Whose life?
Yeah, whose life? The life of
Right.
the product, life of the company, life of the person, which person,
I mean,
buyer, seller.
You're right, Steve. It goes both ways. And actually, I recently subscribed to a lifetime, well, not recently, a company that I had signed up to a lifetime thing in the space of backup technology. Recently, even though they had rather specific conditions in the lifetime agreement, just changed the rules and just said, you know what, too bad. Which, you know, as a user, I think that's worse than anything. But, you know, if you're going to offer something and it's really specified, then you should stick to that. You know, then you should be, and then you create a whole new product with a whole new set of conditions if you want to go in a different route.
Yeah, and I get it really. I enjoy just paying once and don't bother with paying renewals anymore for software and stuff. So I that's also why I started with offering the lifetime, because it's something that I would want. But as a company, you kind of get yourself into problems with trying to change stuff, as you say. If I want to change my company model in whatever way, then you're pretty much stuck with lifetime stuff.
So, Peter, how do you come up with the ideas for the extensions? Do you, and this isn't something I've heard from 2 or 3 extension and plugin developers, they basically keep a spreadsheet of ideas that come in from their customers. Like, this is bugging me, and they think it's a potential idea they could solve with a feature. You've come up with 30 of these now. How do you generate the new ideas for the new extensions? Are you keeping a list of the things people get stuck on, or are you just familiar enough with Joomla at this point that you can see the gaps in the features?
Pretty much all of my extensions, nearly all of them, I created just for myself to start off with, just to fill a gap in something that I wanted to do. And that turned into an extension I just wanted to offer to the rest of the world because, yeah, I made it anyway. So the initial versions of my extensions were pretty much just because I wanted to do something that wasn't possible or wasn't easy. With Better Trash, I was trying to explain Joomla to my daughter. So she had her own little test setup. And so I was showing her, like, you can make an article and then, well, we'll just throw it away now. And she said, well, where is it now? So I was showing her that you had to change the status to trashed. And so it's still there, and how do you throw it away and stuff like that. And she said, well, this is just stupid. Can't you make an extension for this? Like that it's easier to control your trash. So she kind of had the idea of Better Trash. So that's where that extension came from. So that's,
does she get a cut of the revenue?
Yeah, I pay her her food.
That's funny.
Yeah,
So a lot of it is.
along with your question, Steve, about how you choose, there's some people or some companies use like an online mechanism. I forget the name of it. It's something voice or something opinion voice or something like that.
User voice?
Yeah, I think that's the one. Where basically, people like me who are customers or have been customers or whatever can put up ideas and then other people vote up or down the idea.
Yeah, I haven't had that and I don't really see the need for it myself. Like I said, I have enough extensions at the moment to fill my time. So I'm not looking for more ideas. And also the support on my extensions, they reveal stuff that I can potentially create extensions for. So I get enough people asking me about stuff. Usually the answer is just no, it's not in my interest to do this. Also, the extensions that I don't use myself anymore, they lose interest very quickly from myself. And so development stops and then it just kind of dies off. So I really want an extension to be useful for myself as well, to be able to offer the best support I can and also to dog food my own stuff.
Makes sense.
Yeah, well, that's how I go about it. So I'm not really looking for gaps in the market. I didn't start that way. It was all just for myself and voluntarily. So it's really awesome that I can pay my bills with what I make from my extensions. But I've never had this marketing mindset or this financial incentive to create an extension specifically.
I've never got a newsletter from you, never got a promotional offer from you.
No.
You don't do any of that traditional marketing.
No, correct.
And we love you for it.
Well, thanks. Yeah, so I've played around with the idea of creating newsletters and stuff, and also Andy, who is somewhere live now, I think. Are you still there, Andy? No, he's gone.
Yeah.
Oh, he is. So yeah, we've been discussing this in the past as well about newsletters. Yeah, it's just not my thing. I don't really read newsletters myself when I get them from others, so it's not really something I enjoy reading, but even less so creating them and trying to keep getting new ideas every month for stuff.
I have a funny question. How did you come up with, or why did you come up with what nothing? I mean, you say that all of your extensions come from an actual need, and I just don't understand what the need for what nothing is about.
How can you not understand it? I mean,
there's about 5 questions about that particular plugin in the chat. I think it's your most popular one, Peter.
Oh, have I missed a lot of stuff in the chat? I can't read and talk at the same time.
That's okay. I can read it for you and send the questions to you as feedback. Yeah, quite a few people are asking. Can you please explain what the what nothing plugin does?
Yeah, it does nothing. Next. Yeah, so this is.
I got to tell you guys that what nothing has been the forefront of building plugins and extensions for a lot of developers that struggled initially on the install and then the formatting. So, Peter, for that, thank you.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what I use it for myself as well. So usually, so Joomla 4 is coming up, so I'll be in the same situation again. So I had this with
Pro
Joomla.
version do?
Sorry?
I said, what does the Pro version do?
It does even more nothing.
That's what I thought. A better case of nothing.
Yeah, there are a few extra options in the Pro version. But when a new version comes along for Joomla and I have to port my extensions, the first one I do is what nothing, because there's no functionality behind it. It's just the install and the XML file. And after that, I do Advanced Module Manager, because that's pretty much the largest or the most complex one. So then I've pretty much covered all the bases to do the rest of the extensions. So yeah, what nothing does a little bit of something.
That's awesome.
It's best to think of it as like a dummy or demonstration extension, perhaps.
Yeah, well, that's not the goal of it. the goal is to this is
To do nothing.
something. Yeah, this is an extension where I actually looked for a gap in the market and a gap in Joomla, and there was nothing out there that was doing nothing. Every extension was doing something. So I had to solve that problem. But this is like a 10 or 12-year-old joke that's been following me around.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you, we've had a good laugh, not at your expense, but with you when I was in San Francisco, and I was part of the Joomla user group. Now I moved to Paris, but at one point I was in San Francisco for a while, and we definitely had a good laugh around that extension.
Okay, good.
Peter,
You
can I ask a couple of questions about JavaScript?
Well, we're on What Nothing at the moment.
Oh, sorry.
No, I just wanted to say you have to read the changelog as well.
Yes, I did. It's funny.
Okay, next. Sorry.
Yeah.
JavaScript.
So
Yeah.
okay, we'll take a sudden detour from What Nothing to, I think, Alan, you had some like developer-focused JavaScript questions.
Correct.
Okay,
So
go for it.
I'm very impressed with the JavaScript that you build into your plugins. And I also know that I don't know if all your plugins use the jQuery library, but I know Joomla 4 has as its goal, and I haven't checked on it, to remove jQuery and I believe replace it with vanilla JavaScript 4.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I've been moving away from jQuery as much as possible since a year or two now. So all my extensions currently still rely on jQuery like the rest of Joomla does.
Sure.
But I've been creating my own JavaScript library just to do the simple stuff. Yeah, so I've been creating my a new subscriptions component for my website to do my sales, because I was using someone else's and needed stuff that wasn't in there. And so I've taken the last year, I guess, or pretty much a year to create a new extension. So I've been forcing myself not to use jQuery in that and just do everything in vanilla as an exercise as well. So yeah, that's one of the major things that will cost time when I have to port everything over to Joomla 4, is to rewrite all the JavaScript. I'm not really a JavaScript guy, so it's funny that you compliment me on my JavaScript stuff, because it's not really my thing, really. So yeah, I'm a CPE developer, especially when it comes to JavaScript, so copy, paste, edit.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
Yeah, and yeah, so I've been digging into JavaScript the last couple of years to up my knowledge on that front, especially for vanilla JavaScript. So hopefully that will get better, and it will have to, because I have to rewrite all my stuff. I've also been relying on libraries a lot. So not only jQuery, but with my modals extension that uses Colorbox, which is from someone else. Yeah. The tabs and sliders and tooltips are all using the Bootstrap functionality. Mm-hmm. So I want to step away from all that and just create my own JavaScript libraries for that. And that will be a lot of work. Yeah. So I'm dreading the day I will have to start doing that. On the one hand, you want to not reinvent the wheel and use what is out there. But like we've seen with Joomla, buying into a library, and it's not only JavaScript, but also other stuff, it's really hard to do that in a way that you don't lock yourself into a certain version, especially for Joomla itself. For extensions, it's a bit easier, but not if Joomla is locked into something. So my current extensions are still using jQuery, and that is the jQuery that comes with Joomla, the Bootstrap that comes with Joomla. And then you get into the whole version race with templates frameworks. And so my extensions don't work well with templates that use Joomla Bootstrap 4. or override the jQuery library with their own version. So that's a headache. And so, yeah, I'm happy to be stepping away from that and just keep it in my own control.
Right. I got a second follow-up question. It's kind of has to do with what I view as a potential area of product development, if not for you, for someone else. My own use of Joomla, I oftentimes build data-centric applications, and I have various tools for doing it. And one of my go-to tools is Fabric. I don't know if you're familiar with Fabric.
Yeah, a bit.
Okay. And which is a fantastic way to quickly scaffold very complex data applications. And it uses JavaScript in the presentation layer. I don't know if it's vanilla, but it's not jQuery based. So that if you have fields in a form that are conditional, depending on the value of the field, it can hide, display, do something to a field down the stream. Mm-hmm. That sort of thing. It all done on Ajax. So it's a very nice way of doing it. But the JavaScript code itself is incredibly verbose and not very efficient and almost impossible to edit.
Yeah.
So I just see in general, I mean, I like I said, I view Joomla's strength is its ability to handle, manipulate, do stuff with data, do something or nothing as it were. And I see a huge need for sophisticated JavaScript applications that can handle the Ajax end of things, working hand in hand with these complex data applications. I'm just putting that out there and wondering if you ever thought about this kind of issue.
Well, as soon as the word complex comes around, I kind of say no, because I'm not that smart. So,
that is so not true, Peter. No way.
Well, yeah, I'm not trying to. It's most of my extensions are pretty small, and that's for a reason. I need to get the whole concept in my head at all of it at one go. Otherwise, I get lost. And some of my extensions have grown and grown to the point that I can't keep it in my head anymore. So then I change. When I want to change something, I need to walk the whole path of this happens because of that.
Sure.
Which is fine, but I don't enjoy it as much anymore. So the stuff you are describing for me is something that already starts off too large for me.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so I enjoy the small tools where you kind of can describe it in one sentence, but also that I can picture the complete code in one picture in my head.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Thank you.
There are definitely different kinds of developers, aren't there? There are some I know who enjoy big architectural challenges.
Yeah.
I've worked with some in the past that love to have a big map on the wall with all the architecture of their enormous application, and the application can do 1,001 things. And then there are developers who much prefer to work in smaller bite-sized chunks. And Peter, I suspect you're more along the small bite-sized chunk lines of things.
Yep, correct. When it comes to code, not food.
I do have a slightly related question that would be good to ask at this point. It's from Hecate in the chat, and she says, you mentioned that some template frameworks cause problems. Are there any template frameworks that you enjoy working with, which are well coded, which you would recommend to people?
Nope. No, it's not. It's not so much whether these templates cause issues. It's more of an incompatibility thing. So it's It's just a matter of which side you're on to see what is causing what. So you have very good template frameworks that work as a template. And extensions work fine with that as well as long as they don't touch on JavaScript pretty much, or do a lot with CSS. So you will also always get into these kind of conflicts, and that's pretty much the way Joomla is set up, and probably also other CMS systems, that if you have a template that relies on certain JavaScript and you have extensions that rely on certain JavaScript, that you get to a point where you get conflicts. So it's not really a question of who's to blame. It's just the way it is. And it's not something I enjoy. And that's when you, especially when you lock into using certain JavaScript libraries and versions of that, like jQuery and Bootstrap and Mootles like we had in the past.
So another question from the chat here. Have you ever decided to stop developing an extension? And if so, why? And what was the process behind it? Did you make an announcement? Did you just remove it from your site? What's the process? If you have 30 extensions, you're going to run into some that just no longer make sense. What's the process for retiring an extension?
Pretty much, extensions that are not useful anymore because Joomla changes. That happens. That has happened in the past, and it will happen with Joomla 4 as well, that some of my extensions will be dropped. So it's either a thing, like if we take Joomla 4, there's add to menu, an extension of mine, but Joomla 4 will get back the Joomla 1.0, I think it was, functionality of being able to create a menu item of an article directly, which was pretty much what add to menu was trying to solve. So I'm guessing I won't be porting that to Joomla 4. So yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. At a point, I will stop developing for Joomla 3, and then that extension is gone, so people can still use the version they have installed, and then it's gone. So that's what happened in the past. Most of the extensions that get dropped are also dropped because they just are not useful anymore, and they don't get used, so no one cares either that they get dropped.
Do you have
there was one, there are a few extensions that already do what Joomla, that Joomla does already, what these extensions do. But from the point of the end user, they're still very, very useful. For example, this little ability, for example, to add a module. Joomla does it, but and of course for us it's very easy. But when you've got clients that are going to use a website, and these clients are novices, they're not going to learn Joomla, they just want to use it. It's still very, very functional for them to keep these little extensions. So keep in mind that you're not only making extensions for the developers.
No, correct.
Yeah, they're novice users, people who are not going to learn at all anymore anything complex in Joomla, but they still want to use a Joomla site. They're getting a Joomla site, they just want to be able to add some articles, to add a form, and they want to do it easily. They're not going to learn anything more. So it's also for clients. But some extra functionality should be kept.
So that's true. So Modules Anywhere is an example where the basis is already possible in Joomla. And the reason I didn't drop Modules Anywhere is because I think it's a lot better than what Joomla can do. And I have a couple of extensions like that that are just building on what Joomla can do, but just adding extra functionality.
We even have a nice table on the Modules Anywhere tutorial on the site that compares the Joomla core version with the Modules Anywhere version.
Andy made that.
Oh, good job, Andy.
So,
by the way, can I ask a question as well? Not an easy question. Not going to be a plant.
Andy, can you introduce yourself quickly for the people that might have missed that earlier?
So essentially, I help Peter with some of the stuff on his website, such as documentation or support forum or troubleshooting bugs or testing things and things like that.
So if someone sends in a question to Regular Labs, they may get either Peter or yourself?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yep.
Usually Peter is the one that's really, like, he's hands-on with the code. So usually I'm a first level kind of guy, and then most of the time for the bigger issues, then Peter comes along and does what he can do.
Yeah, I think Andrea, you replied to one of my comments or questions at some point.
Cool.
Yeah, and if there are questions that really rub me the wrong way and I get really irritated, I'll just let Andy answer it.
We won't ever ask those questions. What are you talking about, Peter?
I'm silent.
Wait, a question for Peter as well, which I've never asked him what he plans to do. When Joomla 4 is going to come out, do you plan on offering, like, do you plan on supporting the same, both Joomla versions 3 and 4 with the same installation, the same download, or do you plan to split the extensions in a Joomla 3 version and a Joomla 4 version? Or if you have any idea on what you're going to do with that?
Well, I'm 40 years old now, so the moment Joomla 4 comes out, I'll be nearly 50.
Right.
The way I did it with Joomla 2.5 and 3 is to have two separate versions, so two separate code bases, but packaged in one zip file. So you can just use one zip file to install it. And it will just, the zip file the installer will choose what code to use. That is probably what I'll be doing for Joomla 3 and 4 as well. The other choice is to have one code base, but to fill everything with if-else's, like do this if Joomla 4, otherwise do Joomla 3 or the other way around. That is not something I like to do because it kind of messes up your code a lot, especially if you want to move away from Joomla 3 completely at one point, then you have a lot of legacy code. So I think I like it better to just make a fresh start.
Yeah, it also helps reduce the errors that you could have.
Yeah, and it also on PHP level, but on coding level, I still develop new knowledge on how to do stuff. So there are extensions out there of mine that when I look at the code, I get a headache and I am not very happy with my past self. So I would not want to carry that code along to Joomla 4. I would just want to recode it.
I think I saw you mention you did something similar when you moved from No Number to Regular Labs. You took it as an opportunity to rewrite a lot of your code, and you said,
"Yeah, correct.
Oh, I've realized how much I've learned over the last 3 or 4 years."
Yeah, correct. Yeah, but that's already 3 years ago.
So Peter, your segue, your answer on this is actually a segue into a big question that I had, which is, so since Joomla 4 seems to be somewhat delayed from initial planning or roadmap, how do you view, I would say, the overall Joomla community? It appears to be, kind of dying off slowly, which I really hate the idea because I've been using Joomla since 2005. And I only develop or build websites in Joomla by choice as well.
Yeah, so I've tried to not get involved in anything to do with core for a couple of years now, I think 5 years. So I don't really have an opinion. Well, I do, but so let me think. I'm getting fuzzy. So what's the question again?
The question is, I've been not involved as a programmer, more as an integrator and a developer of websites since 2005 through all the versions. I even gave a proposal for a name that did not get chosen for Joomla. And so I've been along the ride the whole time, and I'm seeing less and less, we'll call it demand for Joomla. Now, obviously I create my own demand because a lot of customers don't know any better. What I have found, which is I find very interesting to share, is that most people, when presented, who have no knowledge or even who have knowledge of WordPress, when presented with Joomla, backend or WordPress backend, and you give them 10, 20 minutes, overwhelmingly, like 90% of people think Joomla is easier. I don't quite understand how WordPress has become the easy one of these CMSs, because it sure as hell isn't. Anyways, so, but it is what it is. People talk about WordPress as the thing to do, which I totally disagree for most projects. And there seems to be less and less, or it seems to be more and more difficult to, make Joomla the thing to do, because people, Google, because people ask other people. And of course, the answer that always comes around is WordPress. Or now there's kind of a trend towards like headless CMSs, which is another beast unto itself. But it seems to be kind of like either going towards WordPress or towards, a Wix, Squarespace, Spotify, not Spotify, Shopify, or the headless. But, my question is basically, where do you see it going? What do you see Joomla, having, we'll call it a life beyond Joomla 4 if Joomla 4 ever comes out?
I don't know if there's a life after Joomla 4 for Joomla. I also don't really worry about it or care too much. When I look at my own position in this, it's pretty much, I currently make money from providing solutions to people run into on the web.
Sure.
If there comes a point that I can't get my full income from that side, I will have to start looking into other stuff. But I think my power is not so much Joomla, it's in the solving issues arena.
Sure.
So I don't really care too much what happens with Joomla. I'm not that religious in it like some people that want to keep Joomla alive, whatever it costs. At the end of the day, it's just a tool. Right. And if the tool doesn't provide the solution people are looking for anymore, because the world changes, internet changes, then it's time for something else. And there's enough something else's out there. I think Joomla will see a slow decline in the coming 10 years. I think the same will happen to WordPress. So I think the battle is not between Joomla and WordPress. WordPress doesn't even know about Joomla.
Peter, you had a spell maybe a couple of years ago when you took a fairly deep dive into Magento, the shopping cart.
Yeah, so I've been trying to see if there are other means of creating an income for myself in the last 4 or 5 years. Because I'm currently 100% reliant on Joomla. So I've made a venture into WordPress that gave me a headache beyond belief, so I stopped that. I then looked into Magento to do my thing, what I do in Joomla for Magento. Magento is very many levels more complicated than Joomla, especially Magento 2. Something that I don't enjoy because I'm the bite-sized coder. So I invested a year of my time into that. Like I went to all the events and did a lot of digging into the code and stuff like that. And at the end of the year, I still didn't have a clue what I was doing. So I stopped that. And then I moved on to Laravel. And I really enjoy Laravel. But it's not a thing that has like an extension market. So there is no space there for me to do my extension type work. But I'm still hoping that I'll get some brilliant idea for a website, and that will probably be done on Laravel then. But I don't have that yet. So for now, the last year, I've been focusing on my Joomla stuff and preparing stuff for Joomla 4 a bit. So moving away from jQuery, that kind of stuff, cleaning up code.
I think I've found over doing this 15 years or so that it's very easy to chase a shiny object and things like headless CMSs are interesting. But to be honest, between running a business and trying to be useful and trying to homeschool my kids and have a social life and so on, I think one of the things that I've tried to develop with Joomla Shack, and we have a WordPress business as well, is a focus that this is what we do, this is how we can be useful, and there's going to be lots of other trends that come flying by. Yes, we could try and catch the headless CMS wave. Yes, we could try and catch the Magento wave, but you're going to end up exhausted if you keep on trying to catch all these waves. And so certainly on the Joomla side, we've just tried to say, hey, Joomla is going to be what it's going to be, and we're going to try and be useful to anyone that still wants to use it.
Yeah, and with regards to Joomla, Joomla 4 should have been the next best thing. So it should have been the game changer Joomla needed to be relevant again. That isn't happening. Will it stop with Joomla 4? I don't know. On the one hand, the internet moves fast, but on the other hand, there are still websites running on Joomla 1.5 or even earlier. So the market in that, not only for myself, but also for people building websites as a job, I don't think that will disappear very quickly if it does. It's not like we're facing an issue within a year.
Have things changed for you in the last month or so with the coronavirus? Have you seen a change in your sales?
No, not really. It's really hard to see any changes or to pinpoint what that change, what the causes of the change anyway, because my income fluctuates over the year. I don't really have the idea that I've seen a change. I've seen a slow decline in my income since 2014, so a bit less every year, but nothing to be really worried about yet. No, I can't really say that I've seen a change in my income. I also haven't seen a change in the way I work. I used to work from home, and I'm still doing that. I used to not go outside a lot, and I'm still doing that. So for me, not much has changed.
Well, you strike me as someone that has a high priority on doing what you enjoy.
Yeah.
You haven't built a team of 5 or 6 people. You don't have to do management stuff. You don't have to work on platforms you don't like. It's fair to say that being in your comfort zone, doing what you enjoy, is very high on the priority list, maybe higher than money, maybe higher than building a big company.
Yeah, very much so. So yeah, the money is, as long as I can pay my bills, that's fine. So I'm not in it to become a millionaire. It would be nice though, but yeah, not at all costs. So yeah, you're right. My priority is doing the stuff I like to do, creating, well, in this case, the Joomla extensions I like to create and like to manage. Yeah, and having the time enough to spend with my daughter and doing fun stuff in and around the house. And yeah.
Yeah, there are some ways, and obviously we've talked about marketing as well, that if you did want to go chasing the money, you could increase your marketing effort. I don't think you have automatic subscription renewals on your site at the moment.
Yes, I do now.
Oh, you do now? Okay.
Since about 2-3 weeks.
Okay.
So that was the whole subscriptions extension that I've been building over the last months. One of the things that was missing was the recurring payments on that. So that's built in now, and that's on by default. So yeah. So that's just, that's not so much marketing, that's just being smart, or just not throwing money away.
Wait, did I miss, you just said you had a subscription extension. Did I just miss something?
Well, I've created a subscription extension for my own website. So it's not something that is public.
Okay, so I didn't miss anything. Okay.
No. So I was using RD subscriptions and Akiba subs before that. And now I've created my own little thing that so I can fix the bugs myself if some stuff comes up. And I was really missing that that ability to manage my own code in that sense. So I've got the question.
Cool. Let me open it up to some final questions. Owen, go for it.
So
Yep.
with Joomla 4, we have this ability to use the API, right? Not the internal API, but we can call it from external. So there is a potential there that we could start seeing kind of headless stuff because we can just use JavaScript libraries or whatever and then call it through the API to get the content. So we could completely separate the front end and the back end. Do you guys worry about that or see that as a threat to modules and components and stuff like that?
No. I think that could be used. I think the market for that is really small. People wanting to do headless stuff, I don't think their first choice will be Joomla unless they're already familiar with Joomla. I think there are, I'm not sure if they're better, but I think they are better frameworks out there to do the same thing. Yeah.
When we were doing Drupal, we on the training side of our business, we did quite a bit of Drupal, and maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we saw quite a few people move to headless. And then a couple of years later, we saw them moving back again because it's really a complex thing to do, requires quite a team often, particularly for a busy website to manage everything. The idea of it is definitely cooler and easier than the implementation.
It seems like in my company I'm working at now, it seems that tech departments love headless CMSs. Supposedly it makes life better. I tried to propose that we use Joomla, and my answer was we're going to use a headless CMS. And there are lots of them out there. We ended up choosing one, but I wish we would have used Joomla because it would have been easy for everybody to deal with.
Yeah, I think it'll be a niche option for quite some time, probably forever.
Yeah, and it's also the market that when I approach it from my point of view, I don't think the people that are looking into headless stuff are really heavy users of my extensions that much. I'm not sure, but I think
I would agree.
They're coding their own stuff anyway, so they don't need plugins and extensions. Yeah, so I'm not really too bothered about it.
Cool. We've got time for, say, one more question if anyone has a final question for Peter.
Hello, Peter.
Hello, Ahmad.
Actually, I have one question. They're saying here, like by the community here in Saudi Arabia, like actually most of them, they use the WordPress or the Drupal, and a little like a few people like they use Joomla. And whenever I ask them why you don't use Joomla, they said like we don't hear too much about it. And also, like they say there is not a good like roadmap or like a planning. We have heard like from some people inside Joomla that there is politics or something like this. So actually everyone, even me, actually all my websites are built on Joomla, even in my company. And that's why I ask you one question. The big change in Joomla 4, they're saying that it will lose many users. And especially like, as you said, like one example that your extensions, you will build like a new extensions for Joomla 4. I don't know about the migration. It will be hard like to migrate from the old to the new one. Is it to all the other extensions or only your extensions? Can you give us like a hint what will happen within the 3 years? There is any like as I don't know who said it, like do you think Joomla will die with the coming 3-4 years, or there is still hope that it will continue with the technology changes and so on?
Yeah, we've kind of covered this before a bit earlier. I don't think this is a thing for 3 years. I think if Joomla dies off, it will take a lot longer than that. Yeah, they said a lot of people would jump ship when Joomla 3 came out, and people did, but other people didn't, and also it attracted a few users. I think there was a little bit of a drop in the amount of users for Joomla. The same will probably happen with Joomla 4. I'm not sure. I think the answer is I don't know.
Okay. It's okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Peter.
Yeah, I mentioned before, we used to do quite a lot of Drupal work, and we stopped it because we saw 50-60% drop in Drupal, like a really very substantial drop in usage over the last few years. And Joomla, we haven't really. People talk doom and gloom, but we still see a pretty active audience around here. Thank you so much, Peter. It's been a lot of fun to talk with you, and I know a lot of people appreciate your work. And from the comments in the chat, a lot of people came to just say thank you and say how much they appreciate all the work that you do.
Absolutely.
My pleasure.
You're awesome.
Thanks, Peter.
Do you have any surprises coming out in the next couple of months or so, apart from your sexy website?
Well, now that you mention it, nope. No.
Okay.
What more could you
think-
want?
Okay, so regularlabs.sexy is the place to see Peter's innovation over the next few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think I have any surprising stuff lying around.
Cool.
Nope.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Peter.
Okay, my pleasure.